what's up? I am Chris Sider. I'm the founder of Ex-Boyfriend Recovery and Ex-Girlfriend Recovery, and this is my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you about if you can get back with an ex after a really bad breakup. But if you're anything like most of the clients that I work with, you're probably sitting there and wondering, Chris, can I even get back with my ex at all? Well, if that's you, then I have good news for you. Me and my team have put together a special quiz designed to help you understand what your chances are of getting your ex back. Taking the quiz is really easy. All you have to do is basically go to our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, and click on the quiz section. It will be right there. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, all you have to do is simply look in the description below the YouTube video, and there's a link there. Simply click on that link and it will take you right to the quiz. All right, so now that we have that plug out of the way, let's begin. Truthfully, I'm not sure there's such a good thing as a good breakup. In most of the cases with the people that I've worked with, all of the breakups are bad. Even amicable and mutual ones still feel bad for both individuals. Now, if you're an avid reader of my website or have even purchased a few of my products, you may have heard me cite the following research. When scientists have looked at people who have been heartbroken and they hook them up to an MRI machine, they found that the part of the brain that becomes very active when you're heartbroken is the same part of the brain that becomes active in a cocaine addict when they're looking for a fix. If that doesn't tell you how painful a breakup can be, I don't really know what can tell you. Of course, the big question you're sitting there and wondering is, can I get my ex back if I've been through a bad breakup? The answer is pretty simple. Yes, you can. But there's a few extra twists and turns you're gonna have to go down to get there. So here's what I've done for you. I've put together my 5 best tips to teach you how to get your ex back after a very bad breakup. Now, in some cases, these are tips I've never talked about before on my website or on my podcast or even in this YouTube channel. So buckle up because this is gonna be one heck of a wild ride. Tip number 1, success isn't linear. One of the very biggest mistakes that I see people making is thinking that this process is linear. That all you have to do is simply walk from point A to point B and you'll get your ex back. Unfortunately, success doesn't really work that way. In fact, one of the best ways that I can illustrate this is by showing you something that went viral online. Take a look at this. This is a picture of how to become successful. Notice how the path to getting where you want to be is kind of squiggly and you take a lot of left turns and right turns and you go back sometimes. That's a perfect analogy for what this process is like. And I want you to keep that in mind as you listen to the rest of this video. You don't have to do everything perfect all of the time. What you have to do, though, is have an overlying strategy and just understand that there's going to be ups and downs in this process. Tip number 2, trust is important to rebuild. I don't want you to confuse this tip with thinking that you need to do something specifically to rebuild trust. Of course, you have to do that. More than anything, I want you to grasp the mindset that goes into building or rebuilding trust. You can't expect to get your ex back after a bad breakup without rebuilding trust. Why? Well, it's because throughout the bad relationship or throughout the really bad breakup, your ex starts to have certain preconceived notions about what being with you is like. Now, it's your job to dispel those notions, and you do that by rebuilding trust. Now, the cool thing about this is the next few tips that I'm going to be talking about are actually going to synergize together to actually accomplish this. But more than anything, before I actually get into the nitty-gritty of how to rebuild trust, I want you to understand that rebuilding trust is going to be overlying your entire strategy if you're in this situation. Tip number 3, utilize the value chain. The value chain is something that I put together to really define the process that I teach people to get back with their exes. Essentially, it's your blueprint, your roadmap to success. So what is the value chain? Well, it's everything that happens from point A until you get to point B. Now, point A, of course, is where you currently are right now watching this YouTube video. And point B, of course, is you getting back with your ex. Now, this is a very complicated thing to describe. So what I'm going to do is not give you such advanced ideas that you really can't grasp it, especially if you're a newbie. More than anything, I want to really highlight 4 important points through the point A to point B process. The first point and the first part of the value chain is by utilizing a no contact rule. In almost every strategy that I've had a hand in helping someone get back with their ex, the no contact rule has been used to great success. So the no contact rule definitely needs to be a part of your roadmap to success. The next thing is actually rebuilding attraction through text messaging. Notice how at first you start with the no contact rule, which essentially means you're ignoring your ex, and then you're advancing up to text messaging. It's a small little step forward, but not so great to the point where you're trying to secure a date. There's a few things that have to happen before that can occur. The next part of the value chain is talking on the phone, on Skype, on FaceTime, basically trying to slowly move towards that in-person interaction. And the final point of the value chain, of course, as you may have guessed, is that actual in-person interaction, going on a date with your ex. That is the value chain. Tip number 4. Utilize the reciprocation mirror. I hate it when I am on the phone with clients and I sit there and I'm on the phone with them and they tell me, Chris, I did everything you suggested. Why isn't he opening up to me? Why isn't she trusting me? Well, sometimes you have to use what I call the reciprocation mirror. Sometimes you have to dip your toe in the water, so to speak, first before your ex is willing to trust you. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, sometimes when it comes to sharing your feelings, you have to be the one to make the first move. Now, I deal with this a lot when it comes to actually communicating with your ex after a no contact rule. If you don't know, the no contact rule means you've ignored your ex for a certain period of time. Now, I always recommend that you be the one to reach out first after the no contact rule has been completed. Why? Because it's that small show of faith. It utilizes this idea of a reciprocation mirror, where you do something first, and once your ex sees that that's okay, they're willing to dip their toe in the water to come with you. Tip number 5, understand the internal conversation happening in your ex's mind. I find it hilarious when people come up to me and say, wow, I got my ex back because I did X, Y, and Z. That's actually really not how it happens. X, Y, and Z, doing this thing and that, certainly help things come along, but ultimately your ex makes their decision when they're alone and they have an internal conversation in their head. And in many times when they're having that internal conversation with their consciousness, they start to come up with reasons for why they don't want to be with you. Understanding that conversation, understanding what roadblocks you have in front of you to reach the successful point of, hey, you got your ex back, is important. Let's say that you cheated on your ex. Well, in their internal conversation, no matter how well things are going, when they're debating whether or not they should get back with you, that's going to come up. They're literally going to think, but I was with this person and they cheated on me. That small roadblock can ruin everything. So in a weird way, understanding the internal conversation that happens in your ex's head is the key to everyone's success. Think about it. Hey, thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. Before you leave, I have a couple of things I would like to say to you. Number 1, hey, thanks for making it to the end. I know you're a loyal watcher of YouTube if you've made it through the 8 or 9 minutes, however long this video ends up being. I haven't edited it yet. The first thing I want to say to you is please, I'd really appreciate it if you went down there and subscribed to this channel. We need all the subscribers that we can get so that we can continue making these videos and hopefully improve the quality and also the content in them. And by default, help everyone trying to get their exes back. The other thing I want to say to you before you leave is if you're a newbie and you are thinking that you want your ex back, the first step I always tell everyone is to actually stop by our website, which you can find in the description link below, and take our quiz. It's a quiz, it teaches you if you have a chance, and more than anything, it weeds out the people who have a chance and the people who don't have a chance. And if you don't have a chance, sometimes all you have to do is simply look around our website for articles so that you can improve your chances. So, click on the link, take the quiz. I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe.